Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I never thought I'd have to deal with someone as entitled as my neighbor Tom, in my quiet suburban neighborhood. It all started a few months ago when Tom moved in next door. He was a firefighter, and at first I thought that was pretty cool. Little did I know that his profession would soon become his excuse for some outrageous behavior. One sunny afternoon, I was returning home from work when I noticed a familiar sight. Tom's shiny red pickup truck was parked right in the fire zone in front of our building, right next to the no parking fire zone sign. This wasn't the first time he had done this, and it was becoming increasingly frustrating. I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt and went over to talk to him. After all, I thought maybe there was a legitimate reason he parked there. I knocked on his door and he answered with a smug grin on his face. "Hey Tom." I began trying to sound friendly. "I noticed your truck is parked in the fire zone again. You know we're not supposed to park there, right?" Tom chuckled as if my concern was utterly absurd. "Oh, don't worry about it," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "I'm a firefighter, so I can park wherever I want. It's my privilege." I was taken aback by his arrogance. "I get that you're a firefighter, but that doesn't mean you can just ignore parking rules. What if there is a real emergency and the fire department can't access the building because your truck is in the way?" Tom's smirk only grew wider. "Relax, buddy. I've got a scanner in my truck. If there is an emergency, I'll move it. Besides, I pay rent here too, you know?" I couldn't believe his audacity. "Paying rent doesn't give you the right to break the law," I said firmly. "Please, just follow the parking rules like everyone else." Tom shrugged and closed the door, leaving me standing there frustrated. It was clear that he wasn't going to change his behavior voluntarily. I decided to take a different approach and contacted the building manager, Mr. Jenkins, to report the ongoing issue. A few days later, Mr. Jenkins sent out a notice to all the residents reminding them of the parking rules and explicitly stating that no one, regardless of your profession, was allowed to park in the fire zone. I hoped this would put an end to Tom's entitled behavior, but I was in for a surprise. The very next evening, as I was watching TV in my living room, I heard a loud argument outside. Curious, I peeked through my window blinds and saw Tom and Mr. Jenkins engaged in a heated exchange. "You can't tell me where to park," Tom shouted at our building manager. Mr. Jenkins remained calm but resolute. "I'm sorry, Tom, but the rules apply to everyone. Parking in the fire zone is a safety hazard. We can't make exceptions." Tom's face turned bright red as he continued to argue. "I've been a firefighter for over 10 years, and this is how you treat me? I risk my life every day, and this is the thanks I get?" I couldn't help but cringe at Tom's dramatic display. I knew that being a firefighter was a demanding job, but it didn't excuse his entitled behavior. The argument escalated to the point where Mr. Jenkins threatened to call the police if Tom didn't move his truck immediately. Tom reluctantly agreed and stormed off to relocate his truck. It seemed like we had made some progress, but I had a feeling this wouldn't be the end of it. A few weeks passed and Tom's truck was nowhere to be seen in the fire zone. I hoped that he had finally come to his senses and decided to follow the rules like the rest of us. However, my hopes were short-lived. One Saturday morning, I was awoken by the blaring sound of a horn outside my window. I rushed to see what was going on, and to my astonishment, there was Tom, parked once again in the fire zone, blocking the entrance to our building. I couldn't believe he was at it again. I decided to call the non-emergency police line to report the ongoing issue. Within minutes, a police officer arrived at our building. I went outside to meet the officer, who introduced himself as Officer Johnson. I explained the situation to him and pointed out Tom's truck. "Sir, I'll have to ticket this vehicle for parking in a fire zone because it's a safety violation and no one is above the law," Officer Johnson said. I nodded in agreement, relieved that someone was finally taking action. Officer Johnson proceeded to write a ticket and affixed it to Tom's windshield. Just then, Tom emerged from his apartment, clearly agitated by the presence of the police officer. He stormed over to us shouting, "What do you think you're doing? I'm a firefighter. I can park here." Officer Johnson remained calm and professional. "I understand that you're a firefighter, sir, but that doesn't exempt you from following parking regulations. Blocking the fire zone is a safety concern." Tom was furious. "This is ridiculous. You're harassing me because of my profession." The officer shook his head. "I'm just doing my job, sir. If you have an issue with a ticket, you can contest it in a court." Tom's face turned a deeper shade of red, and he continued to argue with Officer Johnson. It was clear that he wasn't going to back down easily. I decided to stay out of the confrontation and let the officer handle the situation. As the arguments between Tom and Officer Johnson escalated, the small crowd of neighbors began to gather, curious about the commotion. Tom's outburst was drawing even more attention to his entitled behavior. Finally, Officer Johnson had enough. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down, because if you continue to be disruptive, I have no choice but to place you under arrest." Tom scoffed, believing he could intimidate the officer with his firefighter status. "You wouldn't dare." But Officer Johnson remained resolute. "I will, if I have to." Tom's face twisted in anger, but he begrudgingly backed down and retreated into his apartment. Officer Johnson warned him not to interfere further and then turned to me. "I appreciate your cooperation, sir. I'll be sure to file a report about this incident, and if there are any more violations, we will take appropriate action." I thanked him for his assistance and watched as he left our building. It was clear that Tom's sense of entitlement had finally caught up with him. I hope that this will be a wake-up call for him and that he would start respecting the rules like the rest of us. However, my optimism was short-lived. A few days later, I received a knock on my door. It was Officer Johnson accompanied by another police officer. "We received a report of a disturbance involving your neighbor Tom," Officer Johnson explained. "He became aggressive and threatened us when we tried to issue another ticket for parking in the fire zone." I was shocked to hear that Tom had escalated the situation further. "I'm really sorry about all of this, officer. I had no idea he would react like that." The officer nodded sympathetically. "We understand, but we can't tolerate threats or aggression toward law enforcement. We will need you to provide a statement about what you witnessed." I agreed to cooperate and gave a detailed account of Tom's behavior during both incidents. It was clear that Tom's entitlement had spiraled out of control, and it was now a matter for the police to handle. As I finished my statement, Officer Johnson thanked me for my cooperation and assured me that they would handle the situation appropriately. They lived to address the issue with Tom, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that something was finally being done. A few hours later, I received a call from another neighbor, Lisa, who lived in the apartment across the hall from Tom. She informed me that the police had arrested Tom and were in the process of towing his truck. I went outside to see the commotion. Tom was in handcuffs, shouting obscenities at the officers as they loaded his truck onto a tow truck. Lisa and I exchanged looks, both of us relieved that Tom's entitled behavior was finally being addressed. It was clear that being a firefighter didn't grant him special privileges when it came to breaking the law. Over the next few weeks, our neighborhood returned to its peaceful state. Tom was no longer our neighbor, and the fire zone in front of our building remained clear of unauthorized vehicles. I worked at a coffee chain in Canada. The way this chain works is that people can buy stores and decide what to sell, but there are still rules. This place always had a sign out reading "Hiring all positions." Red flags from the start, but we went through with it. My sister and I got a job there. It's close to home and is our first job. One of the main things that people would get in trouble for was if we gave people ice water, free water, in a to-go cup. This video training from head office told us to, but anytime we got caught doing this, the owner would take $1 out of the tip jar. Other things like if we used more than 3 washed clothes, if we gave people paper plates even if they were eating in store, give them more than 1 napkin in a to-go bags, and so on. Anything that cost her money, she would take from our tips to pay checks. Both are illegal. Well, one night I hit the breaking point where I'm made to stay 1 hour later to clean a station that is not mine and don't get paid the overtime for it, or for that hour at all. I start to do everything I can to cost her money and not get caught. I could shove 30 Timbits in a 20 Timbit box. You ordered the small? Oops, I made it large. Double cheese and meat for everyone. Boom! Your small soup is large. Anything I could do, really. I have swift hands from learning magic in school, so the best part is that you can't see me doing this on the cameras. She would watch them and try to find where the stuff was going, but nope. I was slick, I was smart, and I was unstoppable. I felt power and I wanted more. I got other people involved. Every night at 2 a.m. we threw everything out. I got a nuclear bag, put all the baked goods in it, and set it by the back door just outside. And oh no, a bunch of kids just ran by and stole $80 worth of baked goods. The owner gets a bonus for good drive-through time. Oh no, someone parked in a drive-through and our times are all messed up. I serve my time, I cover my tracks, snow on license plates of the friends that helped, ski masks and winter clothing for people. Magic hands, I did it all. I wanted her to lose money. She's pissed and calls us all out about what is happening. She swears and curses at us all in front of the store. I file my 2 weeks, as does my sister. We quit, we did what we could, but needed to get out. Well, guess what? Customers started filing complaints. Ex-workers filed complaints. Undercover investigations were done as to why the one location was such a crap show. Now the owner is banned from her own property and her son has to run it. So now, not only can she not manage her own property, and sure, I probably did not cost her that much, but I felt so much happier and proud that I was able to take action. This story takes place in Melbourne, Australia. Hopefully it's pro-revenge worthy. I know this story because I'm good friends with my neighbor. My neighbor, let's call him John, decided 8 years ago that he wanted to build a second story on his house. But his property had a legal binding on it preventing it from being renovated unless all surrounding neighbors agreed. This is called a covenant, I think, and it can't be contested in the local council. This one was over 100 years old. All his neighbors except one, let's call him Alex, agreed to let him renovate. Now, John's a big guy, ex-military and muscular. He has a wife and 2 children, but he's not quick to anger. About twice every year, John would write Alex polite letters asking him to lift the ban from renovating his house, and every year, Alex declined, complaining that it would be an eyesore. Literally, every other house on our road has 2 stories but his, or that it would ruin the aesthetic of the street. Seriously, Alex was also a complete jerk and a hypocrite, playing loud music past midnight. Anyway, for 8 years, John would get turned down by Alex, and then suddenly Alex decided he was going to sell his house. The revenge was on. After he heard the news, John bought one of those professional metal signs that people put in front of their houses when selling, and put one in front of his own house. On it, it read something like, 5 new apartments being built. Get in quick. 2 sold already. 3 entire stories. Loud noise expected for a year. The number given on a sign was disconnected. This was repeated in Mandarin and Arabic as well. The sign was put right next to Alex's house on the edge of John's property. The auction for the house was going in a month, and Alex was quick to get a lawyer against John to make him put the sign down. I think it was because the sign was encroaching on his land. John wrote about 60 letters to the lawyer, and it cost about $50 for the lawyer to read each letter and give his legal advice to Alex. The lawyer contacted John and told him if he did not take down the sign a week before the auction, they would take him to court. A week before the auction, John took the sign down, but he wasn't done. The day of the auction arrived and John parked his 4 cars along the front of Alex's house so no one could see the auction here sign. And so the auction goers couldn't park there. John has an inbuilt speaker system in his house that was blasting building sound effects and music throughout his house. He put back up the sign he put down and put another one up, which read, House Demolition, Furniture Sale. John bought most of the furniture from his garage and the house outside on his lawn. If people came to buy something, he would overprice it outrageously because he didn't really want to sell his stuff. It was just to make the apartment construction more believable and give the auction goers a taste of how loud it will be. When the auction took place, we could barely hear the auctioneer. When Alex complained to John about the noise, John said that he had the builders on a contract and that they want to reschedule. The house was estimated to go for $3 million but ended up going for $2.4 instead. Alex had to halt his construction of his new house because he didn't have the funds. Alex, who according to John sounded like he was seething with anger, wanted to tell John that he owes him $600,000. The new owners of the property lifted the covenant when John told them about his plan. "You guys should be thanking me. I saved you $600,000. My name is Tia, 32, and my sister Lila, 30, were in and out of foster care growing up. Lila got pregnant at 17 and went to prison at 18 for robbery with her boyfriend. Because I was 19, I was legally allowed to take custody of my niece, Ash. The whole time my sister was in prison, I would visit her and let my niece go as well, so she could try to build that connection with her mom. But as the years went by, Ash started calling me mom and called my sister Lai, because I was the one that was there day to day taking care of her. Fast forward to 2020, Lila gets out of prison early due to good behavior, and the state trying to reduce the prison population due to COVID-19. Lila is 27 at this time and Ash is 10. By now I have gone to school, gotten a stable job, bought a house, and feel I'm doing well for myself and Ash. So of course Lila is paroled to come live with me. At first everything was good. We all start getting acquainted and used to each other. I is trying to figure out life as an adult in a free world, and of course, I'm trying to help her as well. After about a year, Lai has really started influencing Ash in a negative way. Prior to her coming home, Ash was a straight-A student, very well-mannered and making strides towards a positive entry to middle school. And now my sweetie is rude, flunking most of her classes, cursing and talking back to me, and Lai just laughs it off. I feel like I'm raising two teenagers at that point. Lai stay gone a lot, trying to invite strange and crazy people over to my house and so on. I had enough. She wouldn't work, wouldn't help around the house, absolutely nothing. Now 2023, Lai finally has a job at Burger King and has a crazy weird boyfriend. A few weeks ago, she says she's moving in with her boyfriend. I told her okay, good luck. Then she says she's taking Ash with her. Oh hell no, I am her parent. I will gladly allow visitation, but you're not taking this child out of my home to go couch surfing with you and your stupid boyfriend. Mind you, Lai is still on parole until 2026. Ash walked in on us arguing and said she wants to go with her mom. I explained to her that I have custody and that she cannot go with her. She cried and stormed out of the room. My sister then yells at me and says that I'm a horrible person for splitting up her and her child. First of all, I have given up my entire young adult years to raise this child. I gave up a world travel fellowship, a relationship, and so on, just to be here for this child so she would never have to go through what my sister and I did in the foster care system. I'm all for letting them visit each other, but I'm not letting her leave. Ash is now 13 and feels she's entitled to make her own decisions, but I know how her mom is. It'll be a disappointment going to live with her. I've given her such a stable life and my sister has ruined most of it in less than 3 years. Am I the real jerk here? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, you should have kicked her out ages ago. And no, you're not the jerk. Mom isn't even stable. And I know something about how you feel as I have parental rights over my niece and she lived with me for 12 years. Not that jerk. Another commenter adds, not the jerk. Your only mistake was letting Lila stay in your house as soon as you noticed Ash was going down the wrong path. I get it, family. Hopefully Ash will realize her mother is a terrible influence. Good luck, OP. A third commenter goes with, not the jerk. But your mistake was not setting hard boundaries with your sister. You should have been told that she had to get a job and keep it and pay her share of the costs, food, electricity, and buy her own clothes and such. Or she got kicked out. Instead, she got to show Ash that you could be a bum and live off others with few consequences. Do not ever let your sister move back in. Let Ash see what her mom leading that life leads to. Perhaps Ash can be gotten back on track.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.